Welcome back, YouTube, to the GOATcast podcast. Obviously, today I'm your host, BigNige. Of course, we have the baldest and the tallest, CW. Y'all gonna have to forgive me for my work outfit because I just got off work.
I
So I'm a
mean,
little bit more bussied up than normal.
that's money bags over there. So what y'all are seeing is money right there.
Y'all seen is tired. But how you doing today, CW?
Man, I'm good. I'm enjoying WrestleMania season, and not just in the WWE, but in the NBA, because there've been a lot of physical altercations going on these last couple of nights.
Yeah, and so pretty much for those who haven't watched or seen anything on Instagram or social media, there was three altercations in these past few NBA games. Wednesday, the Hornets played the Warriors, and Grant Williams, and you're gonna have to help me with the other guy's name because he's playing garbage time minutes.
Quinones, I don't know.
Well,
I heard him say it, and it still slips my mind of how to pronounce it, but he's a nobody.
It turned into a big deal. Grant Williams got involved. It was a whole big thing. Draymond Green had some post game comments calling Grant Williams a fake tough guy, and was saying, that's why the Dallas Mavericks, kind of got rid of him because he run his mouth too much. And it's very rich coming from Draymond Green, who is always in the news for the wrong reasons about running his mouth.
Pot calling the kettle black. That's all I gotta say. The pot calling the kettle black.
And Friday night, the Heat played the Pelicans, and there was a big scuffle. Zion went up for a layup. He's arguing about not getting a foul call. Next thing you know, Jimmy Butler goes for the ball, and then Kevin Love grabs Zion Williamson. As you can see, his teammates took exception. One thing led to another, and it became this big scuffle. Now, what a lot of people didn't see when you get to see that scuffle is that Thomas Bryant and Jose Alvarado, you can kind of see in the background a little bit if you're watching this in real time. But Jose Alvarado and Thomas Bryant also got into it. Mm-hmm. And you got, Jose Alvarado at like 6 foot. And you got Thomas Bryant that's like 7 foot. I thought personally that was funny. But Jimmy Butler had some post-game comments as well, just saying that they're a better team and that they're going to continue to beat on the Pelicans because they're not as good as the Miami Heat. So last but not least, we have the Nets and Timberwolves, where Dennis Schroeder shoved Mike Conley Jr. for some more physical altercations because Mike Conley Jr. shot a shot, I think it was in the last 24 seconds of the game. In the fourth quarter, he took exception to that. Dennis Schroeder took exception, and it led to another scuffle. So the question first for you, CW, is this a good look or a bad look for the NBA?
Well, you know what? I'm going to say it might be a good look, surprisingly. I mean, it's always bad when you have people in physical altercations. You don't want to see the game dissolve into that. Of course, we had Balance in the Palace. We always talk about that. But after what happened at the All-Star weekend, we talked about that in our last episode. People were questioning the NBA's effort. And if teams actually wanted it, and if teams were, giving all they had on the court, and seeing this type of ruckus or whatever you want to call it, I mean, it's showing guys care, and maybe that's what the NBA needs. I mean, they don't need people getting suspended. They don't need, people getting hit our fist and just beat up, but they do need players to show that they care about the game. And seeing something like this, it shows that they cared. And in that case, I think it's a good look. It's a bad look when, from just the aesthetic of it, you don't want, it's most of the NBA is us. So you never want to see us fighting each other. They already think we're, I'm not going to get into all that, but just seeing, these guys going at it, it is a blemish on the game, but for the most part, I think it shows that these guys are out there competing, and that's all we ask. That's all we ask when we're watching games, is for these guys to compete, from opening jump ball to the last second of the fourth quarter. So I think you can see it as a positive and a negative. But Josh McDaniels, and he's shown right there, man, that guy does not back down from anyone. He goes right after you if you mess with any of his teammates.
Yeah, just like the whole Warriors situation with Klay Thompson. So he's making a name for himself. But I think it's a good thing. Like, I think as long as it's kind of like controlled, it's not happening like, every night you're looking at some kind of scuffle. But I think it's the little things like these are going to make fans want to tune in more. Like what's going to happen when Jimmy Butler and Najee Marshall get back on the court together? Is it going to be something like where Jimmy Butler had words for TJ Warren back in the bubble for the Pacers when they were going shot for shot with each other? That sparked a little rivalry until TJ Warren fell off of the face of the earth. But at least it gave fans like excitement, ready for the next time that these two teams match up. But since you've had 3 different altercations, you potentially have 3 different maybe brewing rivalries, depending on how they stack up with one another. I think obviously if you throw in the idea of rivalries brewing from altercations, obviously that that's good for the business, good for the viewers. I think the only time where it could be a detriment is if it's like these teams never play each other again. Like if you see like the Hornets and Warriors, well, if they have their little rivalry, right, and they get into it on the last game of they only played each other twice.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, I mean, yeah, but it's not like the Hornets and the Warriors are going to make the finals. So it's like they really got into it. Draymond has some words for Grant Williams, but it's just like, okay, move on. You don't really get any traction from it. I think it's better and more beneficial when it's between like conferences. Like it's like a potential Eastern Conference or Western Conference matchup where you're going to see each other again. Like the Warriors and the Timberwolves. Like if the Warriors make a low seed and the Timberwolves are, top 3, they're going to potentially have to go see them. And I'm sure there's still no love lost between, Draymond and Gobert, McDaniels and Clay. Like it's a whole bunch of moving parts. And all these players are key contributors for their respective ball clubs. So I think something like that would be really, really good for the ratings. And obviously it's going to make for really good basketball. Speaking of the Timberwolves, there was also another thing that I wanted to talk about. And I wanted to get your take on how do you feel about the end of the game scoring, that unwritten rule where the other team, the winning team who's, up by like, 15, 20 plus, the last 20 so seconds of the game, hold the ball, you're not shooting it, you're not playing. What are your thoughts on is that unwritten rule something that players should follow, or is this just people in their feelings because they're getting beat down?
Good question. I feel like from a basketball perspective and watching basketball and playing basketball, I think that unwritten rule is a rule that most people abide by because, I mean, if you're already embarrassing a team, why pour it on? But it's also to take that, the guys that are out there at garbage minutes, they're just trying to show, what they have. They're trying to get some type of stats. You don't want to go a whole season with averaging 0 points. So if you have a chance to make an easy basket and it's the last few seconds, why not get you an easy basket so you can get your name on the box score? So, I mean, there's 2 sides to it, but I mean, there should be some type of mercy rule when it comes to a basketball game, a game, any type of athletic game or any type of team sport. There should be some mercy rule because, I mean, you're already embarrassing the team, so why pile on while during those last few seconds? But like I said, in that scenario where it's a third string guy out there, I don't see no problem with them trying to get a shot up. And for Conley the shot clock was running out. There wasn't enough time for the time to run out for the game to be over. So I mean, there's no problem with him just jacking up a shot. Yeah, he made it, but his intentions weren't to make it. He was just jacking up a shot so that they don't get a turnover. You know, you don't want a turnover on your stat sheet. I mean, you know, in that scenario, when there's a way to get over that. So I mean, I think that there's two sides of it, but I think if it's my perspective, I think you just let the clock run out. But in Conley's scenario, you just jack it up. I mean, you're shooting, you know, you're just throwing it up there. But I do think you do give a little mercy to a team. If you're up by 20, 30 points, you just let the clock run out.
Yeah, so I don't agree with that. Listen,
what?
All right. As you know, like I said, we both play basketball. We know. All right. So there's a lot of trash talking that goes into, you know, anywhere from, you know, I'm hearing little kids talk trash now. Like I was at the playing pickup, you know, at a local rec center. And I mean, these kids probably weren't no more than like 11, you know, 10 years old. And you had this little point guard kid, and you had this, you know, chunkier little like center, you know, type kid, you know, and they're just talking smack to each other the whole game. I mean, it's like you was thinking it like Shaq and Kobe playing against each other, just the way they were just going at it. I was just like, man, but this is just that competitive nature, right? And so I say that because you are taught as soon as you pick up a basketball and you're playing meaningful competitive basketball, you keep playing till that clock hits 0. All right. I don't care about no unwritten rule about somebody. Look, if you're mad at me because I'm running up the score on you, then you got to stop me. All right. You shouldn't want to fight somebody and go through all this hoopla because you're getting busted by 30 plus. You should have been mad the first quarter, the second quarter, and the third quarter. Don't be mad now in the fourth quarter when you up getting dubbed by 30. All right, because that to me never made sense. Now, obviously, you know, I follow what my coaches told me, and because I've blown out a lot of teams in my you know, basketball days. And obviously, you know, they would tell us like we couldn't press no more. We had to stay below the free throw line. You know, all that weak stuff, man. I'm trying to score 100 points in a game, man. What's all this stuff, man? Like, why do we got to give mercy? Like, putting in the second and third string or whatever, that's mercy. Now, if they're just that much better than your starters or your second string or your third string, that's not my problem as a basketball player. I just think they need to get better or just get over it. Because us holding the ball for the last 20 seconds is not going to, what? Is it going to stop us from beating you guys by 40 instead of 35? Like it means nothing to me personally.
I mean, I get that, but I just feel like, you know, if you know, like, I'm gonna give an example with my son. He played in an AU tournament where he's 8th grade. He's playing 6th graders. And these kids were about out there, wasn't even barely at their shoulders. So they're just running all over them. And, you know, in a case like that, you show some mercy. These kids are coming out there trying their best. I mean, you know, you can score. I mean, you know, you can score. I mean, why score? Why? I mean, what? That's not showing. That's not adding to your skill set. That's not showing what you have. That's just running up the score. I mean, if you have a sizable lead, you know, just play these kids like you play, you know, your sisters. I mean, I know that's kind of, you know, grasping at straws or whatever, but you don't go, you know, full 100% on somebody that you know you're just that much better than. I just feel like you just show a little bit of mercy, you know.
But think of it like this. Think of it like this. All right, so obviously, you're supposed to play like every possession like it's your last, right? You have those days where you look back on your childhood and you'll be like, man, that game where I scored 26, I could have got 30. That game where, I was having a really good shooting game. I could have shot about 3-4 more of them threes and maybe hit 6 threes in that game instead of like 2 or 3. Whatever the case may be, it's like you don't want to waste your youthful days, of being, whatever kind of player that you want to be until you become an adult and you sit behind an office desk, just salivating the days that you used to could hoop 24/7, 7 days a week. Look, you can't do that no more, all right? Those days are over.
I can't. But
but I know when you're sitting there and because we talk about this all the time, and you're like, yeah, back in my day, I could have done this, I could have done that. So that's telling you, that's like putting a seal on your potential by saying, you know what, I'm not going to score. I'm not going to work on my game because we're blowing this team out. That's like the best time to try new stuff because you're not going to get benched for shooting some wild stuff. You get to practice on whatever you don't get to practice. It's still in the game, so you're getting in-game reps. Like, to me, it makes no sense to just not try. At that point, why even play the game? Just walk off.
I'm not saying you don't try, but the last 20 seconds, come on. What are you going to try in your last 20 seconds that's going to make a difference? I'm just saying you teach the value to these kids and to the player that, hey, we've done our job. If I got 20, what's 30 going to? I mean, that just looks better on the stat sheet, but I scored my points. We did our job. So what more?
What's the value though? Then what's the value in what you want to show mercy to someone?
In any team sport, what's the goal? To win. You want
to win.
So what are you trying to run up the score for if you already completed your mission and won the game? I don't think there's any value in trying something on inferior competition. You can. Now, if you're beating a good team like that, of course, and they got their starters out there, you bust them up. If that's your rival or something like that, yeah, you bust their heads. But just some random team, the Warriors and the Charlotte Hornets. I mean, the Timberwolves and who was it? The
Brooklyn Nets.
The Brooklyn Nets. I mean, come on now, they're the number one team out west. But I did defend him in that scenario. He just threw it up there. He didn't know it was going to go in. He didn't think it was going to go in. So, I just think you try to put those morals into the kids and just say, you know what, you're beating this team by 30 points. Why are you going to run up your points per game or your points in that game to 30? I mean, you already got 25. These points don't matter. You already won the game. You completed your mission. Let's just get ready for the next game. And there's nothing to learn from that. You can beat them. You're better than them. Your defense showed it. Your offense showed it. So, I mean, there's nothing. I mean, unless coaches might want to try a new defensive scheme and, try different players, put them on the 3-point line, let them jack up some threes in the last 3 or 4 minutes, but the last 20 seconds, no.